Friends, what's up? It has been so long since I have done a live video on TikTok. It's really weird, but here I am eating dinner. I have a small break before I go back to doing hair for my guests, and so I thought I would say hi. I don't have an office like I used to have, which is a bummer, so I'm sitting in my car and it's currently like 30 degrees out, but that's fine. It'll be fine. Everything's fine. Everything is fine. So, but yeah, I wanted to say hi. I know since I've been on the last time, I've had like a lot of new followers. And so I figured I would just randomly pop on and see if anybody had any insightful questions. So yeah, if anyone wants to, feel free to ask questions away. I happen to be a queer person who was assigned female at birth, and I went to school to be a pastor. So that's kind of like the beginning of my shtick, but I'm a whole other wealth of things beyond that. So if anybody has any questions about, like, I don't know, life or who I am or what I do, feel free to ask. I also, I have come out 4 times in my life, which is kind of exciting. So I was assigned female at birth, and then I came out as a lesbian, and then I came out as trans, and then I came out as non-binary. And then at that point, I had to come back around full circle and come out as a pastor. So that's who I am. I feel like, unfortunately, there's like a lot of need for people to speak up in the realm of Christianity. And like, I'm not a huge fan of the church in a lot of the ways that it exists. But what I will say is that it's a really big institution, and it's going to continue to be a big institution for a while. And so I think that it's a little bit of my job to stick around and try to make things better, because if I don't stick around, then who is going to make things better? And that's kind of where I like land with things when it comes to Christianity. Weirdly enough, I get as much hate from like one side as I do the other, because the two worlds of queerness and Christianity are often told that they can't mix, but the reality is that they can mix, and they do mix, like right here in my real life. People can say that I can't exist or that I don't exist, but I'm actually here right now as a queer person, as a person who went to school to be a pastor, as a person who is working on being ordained, and as a person who is like a queer, non-binary person in rural America, which is a pretty weird spot to be in too, because a lot of times, like, we're told that as queer people, the narrative is that we have to sort of move away from rural areas, and we have to move to urban centers to like be able to self-actualize. But the thing is, I think if you want to live in small town America, you absolutely get to live in small town America, and your orientation shouldn't have to have any bearing on where you can or can't live to feel safe, you know? And so here I am in rural America, finding myself to be somewhat of the patron saint of rural queers. I always joke about that I didn't want to be that, but here I am. Actually, my oldest child is 25, and she was out at a bar in town one day, and someone walked up to her and they're like, "Oh, who's your parents, Leo, right? Your parents, Leo." And my daughter's like, "Yeah, that's my parent." And the kid said, "Oh, they're like the unofficial gay mayor of your town." And I was like, "Oh my God." My daughter thought it was super cool. I thought it was super funny, but I didn't realize that I had put off that vibe enough, but apparently I have. So I'm kind of like here and queer in rural America, and also just staking my claim and deciding that no one else gets to tell me who or what or why I have to be or how I have to be, you know? So here I am in rural America, being super queer, existing as a person that is out of category in regards to gender, in regards to orientation, in regards to spirituality, honestly. And I like to open myself up to people who want to ask questions with good intentions, because I feel like I said, a lot of times people are told that the worlds of queerness and religion can't exist. And so I kind of live in that space where I'm trying to, you can't resolve all the tension, right? That's not something I can do. I can't resolve everybody's tension, but what I can do is I can show up and I can be open and I can be vulnerable and I can be myself. Today I posted a spicy little TikTok. I don't know if any of you folks saw it, but if you haven't, you should check it out on my feed today. I posted a TikTok because I have gone through some experiences like parenting. So my wife and I, we have a blended family. She did all of the heavy labor of having kids before I was born. And no, you cannot join. But you can feel free to share those. So yeah, so we had kids, and we have 5 of them, and not all of them are or all of them are super different and super diverse. And we live just like an out of category life in rural America. And here I am as like a non-binary parent. My kids are like all over the spectrum in terms of belief and stuff. And I try to just give them space to exist, to create space to live, and to find out like who they are and live their truth in the world, right? And so that's what I do. And luckily, most of my kids think it's cool. But what happened is one of my kids, their other parent, is just very anti everything that my wife and I are. And he is categorically a terrible human. And that sucks because one of my kids has to deal with that. And what happens is someone has decided to tell that kid of ours, right? We are a lesbian couple. We are a queer couple. And someone's decided to tell that kid that we're going to hell and that being gay is wrong. And I think that that's one of like the big things that a lot of queer people and queer parents face in life right now, which is wild and it's frustrating, is that like they have voices telling them, literally telling them that their parents are going to hell, right? And then they have their parents who they love, and it drives me crazy. Hey TK, what's up? How are you, my dude? I just spotted your name out of all of these ones. I didn't know anybody else's, and I recognize yours, my man. How are you? TK is my cousin. That's cool and stuff. Kendrick Lamar. Ooh, I love Kendrick Lamar. Yo, the man. For real though. I have so much Kendrick Lamar on vinyl, it's not even funny. Like, maybe we could start something new that's just based around the words of Kendrick Lamar, personally. I don't know. But I just think it's really unfair that people who have, like if there's a queer kid, or there's a kid who has queer parents, or if there's a loved one who has a person who has a loved one who's queer, if people come up to them and then are perpetuating anti-LGBTQ rhetoric to them, that's absolutely abusive. It is absolutely psychologically damaging, and it's not okay. And I feel like that's something that happens a lot in the world today. The problem is that you're never going to get a queer person to change by telling their kids or loved ones that they're going to hell. All you're doing is putting stress on that kid or loved one that you keep perpetuating this terrible theology or rhetoric to. It's not actually going to change anything. It's just going to be psychologically damaging. And you know what happens if you're psychologically damaging to a child? Like, we have a name for that, right? We have a name for that, and it's child abuse, and it's not okay. And people are using sort of this like club that's shaped like or named after religion, and it's absolute crap. It's absolute shit. It's just not okay. And I think people are doing that a lot in the world. That's honestly one of the reasons I stick around in Christianity. It's not because it's easy. This is the furthest thing from easy. But what it is needed. So I don't know if any of you folks that are checking this out, if any of you have experiences like being queer, or parenting as a queer person, or co-parenting with someone who's anti-LGBTQ and you're queer. But if you do, please chime in. Like, the whole goal of doing a live is just to actually meet people who need to hear about the things I'm talking about a lot. So if your stuff gets filtered, there's a really good reason, and I'm going to figure it out, and that's going to be problematic. So please don't be a terrible human. I would think that's not something I have to say, but yet again, this is the world that we live in. So here we are. Here we are. But I absolutely am going to make this as safe of a space as possible. So please don't mess that up. But I think this is like part and parcel of the problem. Is there's just so much there's so much weaponizing of religion. There's so much weaponizing of politics. There's so much weaponizing of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. And you know who pays the price for that? It's people's kids and it's people's loved ones. And it's absolutely dangerous and it's harmful and it fuels very dramatic, unaliving actions in our world. That's the kind of rhetoric that drives that. It's the gas in the tank of actions that unalive queer people. Like, it comes from that rhetoric. And so not only are you perpetuating abusive things, you're perpetuating abusive thoughts to kids and to family members, but you're also perpetuating actions that spring from that hotbed of anti-LGBTQ attitude. That is absolutely and unequivocally not okay. It's not okay, and it's never going to be okay. So yeah, I don't know. Feel free to jump in and say some things if you want. I'm not going to let you join unless I know you, because that just seems like a terrible idea. But if you have some ideas or thoughts that you want to talk about, like hit me up in the comments and we'll chat about them for a little bit. I got a few more minutes before I have to go into work, but it was just really driving me crazy today. This idea of doing psychological damage by like the idea of trying to save someone from hell. Like, I don't know. It gets me all fired up because it's just not accurate. It's not adequate. And it's harmful in the end. I talked about this in my TikTok this morning, and I said it and I'll say it again, you know, but if you are spreading anti-LGBTQ rhetoric to the loved ones of LGBTQ people, you're in fact inflicting psychological harm on that person, and you're not going to do anything to change the queer person. You're going to harm that person that you're spreading that logic to. It's unacceptable, and it's not okay. And honestly, I don't care where you're from, and I don't care what you believe, but if you're creating psychological dissonance and harm for children and family members, that's not a good look. That's not on you. That's not my problem. I'm not the one doing that. You are. And I don't know if I'm talking to that person today, or if I'm talking to the queer person, or if I'm talking to the relative of a queer person, but let me know who you are in the comments and we'll chat about it, because that's what I'm here for. That's what I do. That's who I am in the world. And it just breaks my heart to know that people are still suffering at the hands of this terrible theology. As someone who studied theology, I know that beliefs about God often foster some of the best things that the world has seen and some of the very, very worst things that the world has seen. And I recognize, as someone who has studied the Bible for the past decade in a collegiate capacity, that first of all, the Bible isn't anti-LGBTQ. First of all, and I have the receipts. That's easy. I can go on about that all day. But the thing is you can interpret the Bible in a myriad of ways. There are options. There are translations. There's over something like 400 versions of the Bible, you know. The word homosexuality wasn't even in the Bible until 1946. And so all of this like rhetoric that, you know, Christians are anti-LGBTQ is absolutely just abusive think speech, and that's not cool. We shouldn't be perpetuating that. We shouldn't be allowing it. We should be in a better place in our world, right? That's what should be happening. How are you folks doing today? That's a great question. I would love to know that. It's been a while. I used to do Facebook Live or TikTok lives all the time and Facebook lives all the time, like 5 to 7 days a week. And I want to get back into it because I have a unique skill set, and I am a translator of like two different worlds, those worlds being queerness and Christianity. And you know, a lot of times I get asked, like, how do you seriously still identify as a Christian, and why? And I would definitely love to talk about that more if there's someone out there who needs to hear that. But I'm completely uninterested in the idea of religious exclusivism. A lot of Christians would call me a heretic. A lot of Christian institutions would and have kicked me out, and that's that. Whatever, that's fine. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to be any different of a person, you know? And so we're going to keep on keeping on and doing that. But I would love to chat with you if you have like specific thoughts, specific ideas. If you're in any of those positions of loving a queer person, like being their loved one and someone's telling you it's wrong to be gay, being the child of a queer person and someone's telling you it's wrong that your parents are gay, of being the person who's telling people that it's wrong to be gay and that they're going to hell. I would love to talk to any of those people in that category. It's pretty much what I do with my life on a daily basis. So I figured I'd open it up in this realm and see what happened, you know? So, but yeah, that's what's up. I plan on doing some more lives like this. I don't know if I'm going to schedule them. I don't know if I'm not. It's totally random when I have the time to do it, but I would love to see you folks around here. I would love to... It's totally random when I have the time to do it, but I would love to see you folks around here. I would love to answer froze for a second. I'm back. Oh, I just joined my own live. That's very cool. My phone froze for a second, so here I am. Yeah, that's a thing. I'm gonna eat some of my dinner now, but if you have questions and want to chat, drop some comments in the chat bar there. Hi, Jenna. I don't know you. Thanks for joining the live. Good times. This live video should have been called Me Eating Dinner While Gay, but there's a character limit. Me eating dinner while gay. Yay. Anybody else that's watching live in rural America particularly? I feel like living in small town America is a thing. And not enough people talk about it, right? Because we kind of have this, like, we center urbanity, or, you know, city dwelling in our culture. And so a lot of times we don't talk about what it's like to live as this or that in rural America. And I think that's something we should do more. I didn't want to end up in rural America, but here the fuck I am. I don't know if I can say that. Uh-oh. If you don't hear from me for a few days, it's because I dropped the F-bomb. Cool stuff. Hi, I'm new here. Well, let me know your thoughts. Let's have a chat. Let's let it be a thing. So currently I am working on getting ordained and working on having my own church, but until then, this can suffice. It'll work out for me. Hi, Maddie with a white heart. How are you? Jennifer Reeve, what's going on? Thanks for joining the live. I'm just talking about how it's absolutely morally reprehensible and inappropriate for people to tell the loved members, and particularly children of queer people, that they're going to hell, and to reinforce that rhetoric in their minds, because that puts the child or loved one at a complete impasse. And that's unacceptable, and we need to do better. So yeah, I'm glad you're doing okay. That's great. I'm currently on a little bit of a dinner break. I am a hairdresser. I own a salon. My wife and I do. We literally have a doormat that says the gayest place in town in front of our salon. And yeah, I got to do some gender affirming haircuts today. That was super dope. It really makes me happy when people can come into our space and they can feel loved and accepted for who they are. Today, actually, one of my guests, they finally settled on a name. And so we got to book them and get them in an appointment under their name, under their gender affirming name, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And it's happening in rural America, so that's pretty cool. There's also snow flying, which makes me think of the white heart, but I am not exactly a fan of snow, so here we are. With me sitting in my car with the heat on complaining about it, so. Oh, no way, Maddie, for real? That's dope. So, like, you know me like a little bit IRL. Are you from Olean? That's really that's really heartwarming to know that people are saying things out about me that aren't just bad. I always joke that in Olean I am either famous or infamous, and it depends on how you know me. If you don't like me, I'm infamous, and then sometimes people break my windows or yell gay slurs at me, or, you know, just verbally assault me while I'm walking around, or hit me with their cars. That's when I'm infamous. But in a lot of ways I'm famous because people stop me like at the Dunkin' drive-thru and be crying and tell me like thank you for being visible and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Ooh. You're in the South. Now this is a guessing game of which one of my friends you knew. What kind of spiritual? That's a great question. Scrap. So I definitely identify as spiritually non-binary, and this is why. It's a long story. It's very much a paragraph and not a sentence. I was essentially assigned Christian at birth. I was raised in a super Christian household. And that was my mindset until I was 16 or 17. And I really grew up in that world. And I have somehow found a way to still retain the title Christian, but give up all of the shit that surrounds it. The reason that I still say I'm a Christian is because I feel like it would be an abuse of privilege to say I'm not a Christian. Like, I grew up with all of the privileges that are heaped upon white Christians in America, which is a thing. It's a thing. But I kind of think that spirituality is much less binary than we think. Like Christians think it's Christians and everything else. A lot of other religions will think it's their religion and everything else. I kind of have this idea that we are all kind of telling the same or a similar story, but we're using different languages to describe it. Like English will always be my first language, no matter where I go. I will never be a native Spanish speaker. I will never be a native Creole speaker, right? But I will be a native English speaker. But that's not to say I can't learn Creole or I can't learn Spanish. I can learn those things and I can appreciate them and I can see how they work and I can engage in a different culture, but I'll always be a native Christian speaker, so to speak. And so when I say spiritually non-binary, I mean, I come from this place, but I'm not stuck in this place or bound by it. And it's certainly no one's job to stick around in a harmful situation. That's not a thing. You should never have to stay to try to like save your abuser. But for me personally, I feel very purposeful. And I feel like it's part of kind of why I'm alive, is to stay in this world and try to help. And whether it's helping people who have been hurt